The offseason is well underway, and we here at Locked On NHL Game Night are tackling the toughest questions with our favorite local experts.
Tonight, we head out to the Bay Area, check in on the San Jose Sharks, maybe a team that is inching closer to where they want to get to, Cam.
Do we have the foundations right here for a Stanley Cup championship team in the near future?
I think we'll find out. We'll answer that question and so much more as we welcome our old friend, JD Young, on this summer edition of Locked On NHL Game Night.
When that final horn sounds, you know it's time for Locked On NHL Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On NHL Game Night. Your team every day.
Hello there, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Locked On NHL Game Night. I'm Cam Stuart, a sad Boston Bruins fan, sitting in the third coast.
I'm Tyler Feldman, a lifelong Penguins fan, born and raised in Pittsburgh, but currently still loving life in Austin, Texas. And tonight, we have the honor of welcoming this man right here, JD Young. Welcome to the show, JD. We're here to talk some Sharks, but it's finally nice to have you on game night here with Cam and myself.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, with Sharks highlights this year, it's very much been me. The Sharks lost again. Celebrini did something cool, but the Sharks lost again. So, yeah, I get to actually talk about more than just Celebrini did something cool and the Sharks lost again.
Yeah, JD, I feel like there's a little bit more Shark bite this offseason. The summer is a time where the Sharks, they get together here in the Pacific Ocean, I guess, in your case, and they try to smell out some blood. Is there blood in the water for these San Jose Sharks as we look ahead to next season?
I don't know if there's blood in the water. I think we're still in the chumming phase right now of trying to gather all the sharks and such. But I think they're starting to kind of nibble around and see what's going on here. But I do think this is a team that, had a productive, we'll say, offseason. Maybe not the flashiest or sexiest offseason, but I think it did make some moves. And hopefully now, as we'll talk about later, can start to kind of make that next step for this team. A team that has been the worst team in the NHL over the past two seasons, and now just not be the worst team in the NHL, I think is, got to set the bar low and see where we can go from here.
That's a good place to start, JD. That is a good place to start. And look, you've been making the most out of it. At least that's what we've seen there, and the experts think over the last couple of years. Another year, another top 3 pick, another top 2 pick. Michael Misa going number 2 overall. Most years, this is a number 1 overall pick. So in a way, San Jose gets lucky that it's kind of a meh draft. And the Islanders wanted Matthew Schaefer, and now Michael Misa kind of falls into your lap at number 2. You've heard the gaudy numbers, right? 62 goals, 72 assists, 134 points in 65 games. Normally, that is a guy number 1 overall in your lineup, game number 1, kind of like Macklin Celebrini last year. But JD, that might not be the case with having such a great prospect pool. Is there a chance Michael Misa is not in the NHL this year?
Yeah, there is a chance. It's one of the biggest offseason storylines for the Sharks, him and Sam Dickinson, on which one of these guys, or both these guys, can make the NHL out of training camp. And we're seeing now, especially with how the CHL and the NHL and the NCAA are all kind of moving in a different kind of way, with CHL prospect going to the NCAA for a year and playing in the NCAA to kind of get that finishing school before making the jump to the NHL. And Misa is definitely a candidate to be one of those guys, right? You look at schools like Penn State, where Luke Misa, Michael Misa's brother, plays. I know Tyler's getting very excited over there. You also have, like a school like Michigan State, which just lost some pieces, could use a top line center like Michael Misa. You look at the Boston schools that, of course, Mike Greer famously loves himself a Boston kid. So you could definitely see Michael Misa playing in college next year. I think going back to the CHL and going back to Saginaw, he would just put up ridiculous numbers again, but it wouldn't be the most productive season for him as he continues to round out his game. I think they take the Will Smith approach, and Will Smith, who last season started with the Sharks after spending a very productive season with Boston College, but they really were very kind of deliberate with how they utilized him, especially the first half of the season, playing third line minutes. They didn't play him back-to-back games where he would get development days where he would spend extra time on the ice, more time on the gym, trying to get himself ready and in NHL shape. I could see the Sharks doing the same thing with Michael Misa. And Misa, who I think is a cleaner prospect than Will Smith was at the same time. And, even coming out of Boston College, Will Smith did have questions about how is he going to play in the defensive zone? How is he going to hold up to the NHL schedule? We saw the second half of the season, Will Smith was outstanding for the San Jose Sharks and was almost a point per game player in the last 40 games of the year. For Michael Misa, I can understand if the Sharks, who, again, Michael Misa, I think is a cleaner prospect who can play in all three zones. I wouldn't be surprised if they took the same approach, started him on the third line with a veteran center like an Alex Wenberg, and just let him kind of dip his toes, knowing, again, the Sharks aren't going to do anything this year. This whole season is about getting Michael Misa up to speed.
JD, I do have to ask, because in my eyes, the smartest decision for him would be to go to Penn State with his brother.
Well, let's not overthink this here. He just got Macklin Celebrini from BU. Mike Greer's a BU guy.
I just think Pagola Ice Arena in University Park, Pennsylvania, the roof would absolutely explode if that happened. But Michael Misa has been quoted saying, "My goal is to play in the NHL. That's where my head's at right now." And that wasn't too long ago here in this summer month. So with that in mind, how aggressive, JD, should the Sharks be in making sure that happens?
I honestly think he ends up in the NHL. So just because, again, like, we have a formula that worked with Will Smith, and I know every prospect is different and you can't apply the same, but I think Misa is a combination of Celebrini, who, again, one of the best prospects that we've seen, and the way he impacted the game last year in all three zones. I don't think Misa is going to have that type of impact right away. But if you, again, use what you learned from Will Smith and apply that to the Michael Misa development, I think there's an easy path to success for Misa. And again, a team that is projected to be like one of the worst teams in the NHL again this year. And I think the Sharks have a strong enough kind of veterans around Misa where they'll be able to, Will Smith and Celebrini can kind of handle their own now. They can utilize some of these guys to kind of put Michael Misa in the best position to succeed. So that's my guess as we're, mid-July right now.
And obviously, that young core that we're going to talk about throughout this whole segment here, or this whole show, this NHL preview, the San Jose Sharks. But looking at Michael Misa, like we just did, that's who people would say, okay, that kid could come in and win the Calder as the Rookie of the Year. But JD, you did a show recently about a different Shark who could win the Calder this year. That's going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, Askarov, right? The former first-round pick of the Nashville Predators. He's going to be the full-time guy for the Sharks this year, right? And they've been kind of kept the training wheels on Askarov last year. They wanted the San Jose Barracuda team to be good and for Askarov to have a deep playoff run with them. And the team kind of ran out of gas with AHL MVP Andrew Podorowski missing the last part of the season there. And but it's a team that was very reliant on Askarov, and Askarov did basically everything you could ask for in the AHL. Now it is his time. It's his crease. The Sharks went out of their way to try to, as best they can, fix or revamp the defense a little bit. So they went out and they got Alex Nedeljkovic from the Pittsburgh Penguins to be a really solid backup. But it's Askarov's crease. And I think now the big thing is, do they kind of follow the Dustin Wolf pattern of, like, again, maybe the first half of the season, right, you're kind of keep the training wheels on a little bit, but then the second half you just let him go. I did my whole show on it and looking at how other other kind of goalies who were finalists. The big thing is team success. And I just don't know if the Sharks are going to have the team success to be able to vault Askarov into the conversation. But if the Sharks go from being the worst team in the NHL to picking 10th or 11th, it's probably going to be a lot because of Askarov and the difference that he makes.
That's a tough thing to do for a rookie goaltender on a team that is tagged quite as much. But you have the belief. JD Young has the belief, and he is the caretaker of the Reef here. So I'm listening to what JD Young has to say about this Sharks team. The foundation, the pieces, they might already be there in San Jose before Michael Misa even steps onto the ice. Let's talk about the guys they've already drafted and what you're going to expect from the Beanpot Boys this year in San Jose. Let's do it next on Locked On NHL Game Night. But first, a word from our sponsor in today's show, which is Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? I know plenty of NHL teams feel that way. With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you that full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And if you're sharing your finances with someone, my girlfriend just became a doctor, so I got to get on that pretty soon. Monarch helps you stay on the same page with shared and personal accounts all the time. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for a whole half off your first year. Locked On NHL Game Night, Cam Stuart with Tyler Feldman and JD Young of Locked On Sharks, the caretaker of the reef. Let's shift for the guys who haven't played yet to the guys who have a little bit. Beanpot Boys, Green Line guys. I'm trying out a couple different nicknames, JD, but really what I'm looking at are the two guys who played at Beanpot schools, one in Boston, one in Newton. That would be Boston College's Will Smith, the highest draft pick for BC ever, and then Macklin Celebrini the next year at number 1 overall. Celebrini comes really close to winning the Calder Trophy last year. Will Smith takes a step forward. Before we look at what they do for the short-term and long-term future of this team, what did you see from these guys in their first year together on an NHL ice?
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Celebrini, who, was the first overall pick and stepped into the league, right? He had the one game and then he missed, I think it was 11 games afterwards because of a preseason injury. So it felt like your mom gave you a toy, then immediately took it away with Celebrini. But then once he came back, this team was a different team. And yes, they, again, still the worst team in the NHL, but you saw what makes Macklin Celebrini special on a night in, night out basis. And the way he can play in all three zones, the way he can transition the puck and get the puck going from point A to point B, which was a huge problem for the Sharks going back in the 23-24 season. Celebrini helped us solve a lot of that stuff. And then the kid just has that dog in him. Like, he is that, like, never say die. I'm going to drag people with me kicking and screaming, and just something the Sharks needed, right? I always say he has the mentality of a third liner, but the skills of a superstar, right? I'm just going to go out there, I'm going to grind it out, and I'm not going to quit on a shift until, again, they literally have to drag me on the ice. And you saw that leadership from an 18-year-old kid. There's already speculation that he might be wearing the C next year as a 19-year-old kid, because he is that special and that much of a leader, and his impact around the, I don't know if he wears it this year, but it won't be long until the C is on his chest. Like, that is how special a player Celebrini is. For Will Smith, he kind of has that Kobe, quiet assassin mentality, which is a really nice kind of dynamic between the two, where Celebrini is definitely a little bit more outgoing and a little bit more kind of animated, but Smith's got this quiet intensity with him. And then you saw a lot of that kind of poise and that clutch kind of factor with Will Smith making big plays at the right moments. And again, like I mentioned before with Will Smith, it took about half the year for him to click, and then all of a sudden things clicked, and you saw what made him such a special player. Even going back to his days at BC, right, where it took a month or so for him to click and kind of get things going, even though he was playing with Gabe Perreault, and guys that he was familiar with. But then all of a sudden it clicked for Will Smith, and you saw why he was one of the best players in college his freshman season. So I think the sky's the limit for these guys. It'll be interesting to see with Will Smith, who Mike Greer is the plan is to have Smith play center this year, which is where that was his natural position. And then eventually it'll probably come down to Misa versus Smith as your 2C, with, of course, Celebrini cemented as your number 1 center. And then whoever, quote unquote, loses that battle has to then go play on Macklin Celebrini's wing. So it's not like it's some terrible punishment that you have to go play with Celebrini. But my assumption is long term, it's probably going to be Celebrini and Smith down the middle with, Celebrini Misa down the middle with Will Smith playing on Celebrini's wing at some point.
JD, so from my vantage point, and I used to love those old San Jose Shark teams with Owen Nolan, Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton. It seems like with Celebrini and Smith, the Sharks are back on track to getting back to that place that they once were as one of the most dominant teams in the Pacific. What do Celebrini and Smith, though, have to do to improve their game, to improve their leadership, to take San Jose from a 20-win team, let's say, to a 30, 35-win team here next season?
I think for Celebrini, I mean, just continuing to do what you're doing, right? And what we saw from Celebrini last year, I have no doubt. And you've seen hopefully some improvement with some of the pieces around, guys like Jeff Skinner, et cetera, in the defense, which I think, the Sharks went out and added 3 new defenders this offseason to try to improve this defense. But I think especially for Celebrini, is just continue to do what you're doing, right? And he's always going to have a target on his back because he's Macklin Celebrini. But the kid's special. He's been kind of training for this moment since he was 11 or 12 years old. And the nice thing when your dad's Rick Celebrini and works for the Warriors, it's not like you haven't been exposed to professional athletes in this kind of mentality. So I think the kid's got the right makeup for it. For Will Smith, I think it's just continue to grow and develop based off what you did last season. And that was just kind of playing smarter, being not so careless with the puck. That's what got to Smith into a lot of trouble, especially early in the season, is just kind of learning that timing of stuff I could get away with in college that I can't do in the NHL. But then you started to see those flashes of what makes Will Smith special. So I think, though, the transition back to center will be interesting to see. But I think the Sharks have some veteran wingers to put around Smith to hopefully kind of make that transition a little bit easier right now. So, I fully expect these guys to continue to take the next step. And for Celebrini, I don't see why he can't be a point per game player in year 2.
Wow. And I think his dad, you said third line mentality, first line skill. I think his dad says Andre Iguodala mentality, Steph Curry skill. He's not quite as tapped as Draymond Green, so he doesn't go that far. That would be like Matt Cook. Okay. More like that. So looking at these two guys and Misa coming in, I saw this comparison in the other day on YouTube, JD, and I need you to stick with me here, okay? Because it might sound weird at first, and I don't remember who the YouTuber is. I feel bad. I like to give credit there. But they said that there's a little bit of like an Oilers thing with this makeup of the Sharks so far. That really great number 1 center, Macklin Celebrini, Connor McDavid. Looking at an elite scoring center on your line 2 in the future, Michael Misa, Leon Draisaitl, a guy who is top of the draft kind of skill, who can play center or on the wing when need be, Will Smith. Do you see the vision here? Is there some of that feeling in the Bay Area that maybe that's the team we're going to become?
That would be, that would be outstanding. If Macklin Celebrini is anywhere near Connor McDavid, I think we're pretty happy. Definitely take it. And of course, right, the comparison for Celebrini has always been Sidney Crosby, right? Just especially the full 200-foot game. And again, if Celebrini is anywhere near in the realm of Sidney Crosby, we as Sharks fans are going to 100%
only Sidney Crosby.
But
only Sidney Crosby.
What a great player! What a generational.
That's
talent.
Not bad. Yeah.
Hey, Cam. I guess
fine.
Cam, my thing with that comparison, though, is JD, are you okay with losing back-to-back Stanley Cups?
What's another Stanley Cup loss for me, or another playoff crushing?
Another playoff disappointment.
Hey, let's go back. Let's go back to 2016. Let's just rewind the tape.
Yeah, I definitely didn't cry on my couch when the Sharks finally made the Stanley Cup, and then cry on my couch when the Sharks lost the Stanley Cup that year. So what's more?
I just want to let you know I wasn't crying that same year as you were crying. I empathize with your tears. I empathize with your tears, but I wasn't crying. in
See,
that moment.
Tyler rubs this in. My people, we give you a Hall of Famer, and Joe Thornton, Tyler's people, they just rub it in.
Oh, come on. It was all good
mean.
fun. I said I empathized.
It's fine. It's fine. Like I mean, nothing. No, like as weird as it sounds, it's still not worse than the reverse sweep. Like that is still the most. That's like number one. Like in the like heartbreaking. Like the reverse sweep to the Kings, and then the Kings to go on and win the cup. And like that's number one. So.
I can relate to that, JD.
JD, I kind of want to jump through the screen right now and just give you a big hug.
I mean, our logo literally has a shark choking on a stick. I mean, what else do you want? So
it's my favorite. Hey, all things considered, I have always loved the Sharks 1 color scheme and 2 logo. It is whoever designed it. I don't know the history. That'd be a great little chatter point to find that out, because it's a great logo.
Great Locked On episode in the summer, JD. You've been doing this a long time, so I don't mean to keep you.
No, the Sharks have done like a whole full thing. Like they have the artists come back and do like special stuff occasionally too as well. So yeah, no, they've covered it. Sharks have covered it. It's a great story. Anyway, so
well, speaking of, I mean, look, things are looking up for the Sharks overall. It just might take a couple years. So next question we need to tackle: what phase of the rebuild are we in? Let's talk about it next on Locked On NHL Game Night.
Look, we've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Music should be about making memories, okay? Not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Game Time's Zone Deals pick the best seats in your section for you. And ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? The app shows you a panoramic seat view, so there are no surprises. Gotta love that. And with Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. And worried about what happens if plans change? The Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and so much more. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Back here on Locked On NHL Game Night alongside Tyler Feldman. I'm Kim Stuart, JD Young, caretaker of the reef.
Hey, I just wanted that little weird pause before the show started. Cam and I talked about, okay, here's what we're going to do next time. I totally forgot. Okay?
Look,
but what I don't want to do is forget about where the Sharks are headed. And JD, it seems like as San Jose progresses in this rebuild, one, my first question is, do you think it's taken longer than you expected? And two, how close are the Sharks to actually being a playoff team?
All right, let's start with number one. And I think you have to kind of separate, right? Because when the Sharks last made the playoffs, 2018, 2019, Doug Wilson was still the GM. Of course, Doug Wilson, architect of all those great Sharks teams that everybody loves. He still had the and I'm sure you guys have heard these before, right? I still believe in the bones. The core is still good. We can still, all we got to do is work around the edges and stuff like that, right? The Sharks, of course, haven't made the playoffs since, right? And it took a couple years. Doug Wilson stepped down. Of course, the Sharks then went on and hired Mike Grier. Mike Grier coming into this, like, I don't want to, literally on his opening press conference, I don't want to burn this thing down and start from the beginning. Sharks get out to a terrible start under Mike Grier, and then they trade Timo Meier. And that's kind of the signal of when this rebuild officially started, was trading Timo Meier, a young player who was, deserving of a massive contract that he got from the New Jersey Devils. But that, I think, is kind of the moment when the rebuild actually went. So you kind of wasted 3 years of doing nothing because Doug Wilson still bleeds in the bones of the franchise, even though Joe Thornton had left and Patrick Marleau had left, and he didn't want to pay Joe Pavelski for 3 seasons. And like, he kind of believed in it, but he didn't really believe in the bones. So, but it's been, 3 full seasons now of, I would say, true rebuild for the Sharks. And that's honestly how long it takes. And I will give Mike Grier credit. He has been very aggressive in acquiring draft picks and acquiring young talent. The Sharks have had multiple number 1 picks 3 straight seasons in a row here, or first round picks, and they go into next year with 2 first round picks already with their own pick and the Edmonton Oilers pick that they got for Jake Wallman this season. So he's been very good about being aggressive in acquiring that talent. Do I think it's around the corner? I think we're starting to turn the corner, we'll say. I like to call it the fun and frisky phase, right? Where you're competitive every night, like you make teams kind of work for it, but we kind of know what you are, right? And instead of being a doormat, can they just be fun and frisky? And I think the Sharks are entering that phase, especially with Celebrini and Will Smith and Macklin, who we haven't talked about on this show yet, and some of the other players coming into the lineup here soon. I think they're going to start to enter that fun and frisky phase where they're going to make teams sweat and work for it this year. Still expect a lot of losses, but I think they're going to give you something to watch every night and a reason why to tune in. And I think that's the phase we're entering right now.
And so if that is the fun and frisky phase, do you have a timeline for when they become like trophy wife phase, trophy husband phase?
I think you're looking at, my guess would be like that 28-29 season is when okay, this team should be competing for a playoff spot. And then you enter the 30s as okay, this is now hopefully the team of the 30s. And you
Decade
look
of
at,
the Sharks, yes.
Yeah. So, you look at your Colorado Avalanche and your Tampa Bay Lightning and, your Florida, those teams where it's as long as this core is together, it feels like they're going to be in it no matter what, even the Avs, right? As long as McKenna and Cale Makar and, some of those other guys are on this team, you feel like that team is going to be in the mix for a Stanley Cup. And, hopefully you get things to break your way one season. And I think that's where the Sharks are headed, or I hope that's where the Sharks are headed, because I've had to watch a lot of bad hockey over the past couple seasons.
I get that. JD, I have the real question here. Let's get down to brass tacks towards the end of the show. Are you a jersey guy at all?
A jersey? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a huge jersey guy. I've bought 40 of them. And what
I
really
thought
want...
you meant New Jersey. I thought you meant
that's
New
what
Jersey.
I thought at first, but then I saw the
the
jersey behind him. And
I was like, Cam, you're not
a
a New Jersey guy.
No. I won't get offensive here on the show. I wouldn't ask JD that. But I wouldn't make him admit that if that was the case. Just kidding. We're not doing the Devils show, so it doesn't matter. What I really need to know, we got the black alternates back with the new Shark logo, the little thing coming out of the water there. I need a Macklin Celebrini one. And why have they not been on sale this entire season? Do you have any inside intel on that? I'm actually angry about this.
Yeah, we had to do this on the show. We couldn't have done this off camera.
People need to know, man.
Sharks Pro Shop. I've seen plenty of black Celebrini jerseys around the tank. So the Sharks
I might need
Pro
to send
Shop.
you in. I don't know.
Cam is
the
going
Sharks
on
Pro
the
Shop
dark
website. The Sharks Pro Shop website, they'll whoever you want on it, they'll have them all set up for you.
Okay, so
they do a great job. Yeah, I have that's why I ordered myself. As soon as the Sharks drafted Celebrini and signed him, I had that sucker in the cart ready to go. So yes, I got the home one. But yes, I had that. That's that bad boy.
No offense to the teal. I love that alternate one. I'm gonna get a captaincy on it. Just get ahead of it.
My favorite are the away whites. I love the away white jerseys. I think they look so good. But I also, my crazy, because the NHL is no fun, I think all the California teams, when they play each other, should just wear their homes, because you have the teal and black versus the Kings and Sharks. You have the teal and orange Kings and or Sharks and Ducks, and then you have the orange and black Ducks and Kings. All those color combos look really great together, and they should be able to wear those against each other. But the NHL hates fun, so
that's for sure, man. There's one thing we've learned by watching the NHL all these years. That is definitely it.
Anything they like, or anything that's remotely liked, we're not going to do that anymore, guys. We had a great draft in Vegas. We're changing it.
Yeah, we're going to make it the most confusing draft we've ever had, and it will be a 5-hour first round. Hope you'll have fun.
Yes.
JD, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah,
We
thanks,
really
JD.
appreciate you taking the time here. This is just one of 32. We've already knocked down a couple of weeks of this season preview project we got going on here on Locked On NHL Game Night. We will have your team covered, all 32 of them. So be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, you can find us, of course, on YouTube and wherever you find your podcasts as well. For Tyler Feldman and for JD Young of Locked On Sharks, I'm Kim Stuart. We will see you on the next preview on Locked On NHL Game Night.